Hello YouTube, this is Makarov Owner. Okay, so I have a 95 Dodge Dakota, and that 95 Dodge Dakota has been towed probably half a dozen to a dozen times, leaving me stranded all over the place. Been to 3 different mechanics, went to an auto electrician. Nobody had been able to solve this problem. So what it keeps doing is losing spark, and so I have this nifty little spark tester here from Harbor Freight, so I can tell when I don't have spark coming from the coil if I have a second person with me. And what it seems to be is when the truck gets warm, it likes to knock these things out, which is in the top of the distributor, right? So cap and rotor, and then this goes underneath the rotor, and the truck gets warm and these things go south, and I thought we had it fixed, and we did not. So seems like if the truck warms up, that goes, and then when it cools down, you can restart, right? So I've been round and round and round, even replaced the distributor. And so I went, okay, I did a road test, and I decided, let's try to kill this thing, right? So I go out, and I'm looking at my gauges, right? So my gauge for temperature, that guy was, outside of normal range. It's been like that for quite a long time, so much so that I wired in this manual auxiliary gauge. And that thing runs usually about 180. It'll go up to as high as 210, then the electronic fan will kick off, and then it'll drop back down to the 180, 190. But the one in the truck never does that. It's always at a high range. And, there's been some weird glitchy stuff there. So I went, okay. It seemed that the truck, it's a manual 5-speed, 4-cylinder OHC engine. And so when you go through troubleshooting through the book, you have all this stuff. So you got engine misses and blah, blah, blah throughout driving range. It would try to die at 37 miles an hour, 47, 53. It would literally die as I'm driving. I could dump the clutch and get the RPMs way up, and then I continue, and I better be getting my foot into it or it would die. If I come to a stop or a street light, I better be pushing 2,000 or 3,000 RPMs or it's going to die. I mean, it's just that insane. So I checked the spark plugs, checked the timing, compression, ignition system, vacuum leaks, EGR, blah, 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 low fuel pressure, all this stuff, right? And, nothing. I mean, we're coming up with nothing. So we're going, okay. At this point, I believe, we did a simple test with a pretty good light. This is it. It's a pretty good test light. It was showing an open short, and so we went, okay, well, we've looked underneath the hood everywhere. We even chased it around with one of these nifty little Syntec cable tracker electronic devices and couldn't find anything under the hood, so we became convinced, or at least I became convinced, because I got a headlight issue also from, I don't even know where that came from. But I came to believe that we're probably inside the dash, right? And there had been an issue before where somebody before I had this truck had gotten into the dash, and I actually had a mechanic fix that. So we ended up going, okay, well, perhaps it's in the dash, and we better look there once again. So we pulled everything out, checked everything over, wiggled every wire with it running, couldn't get it to kill, and became convinced that, look, we're not finding anything within the dash. So we popped the hood, right? And we popped the hood, and then we're wiggling all the different wires. So up here on top of this engine, there's a cluster of wires you can see over here, and the heat has affected them, but it's not burnt them. So we wiggled them, got no shorts, nothing like that. And underneath this distributor cap, that's where that part keeps going bad, and then the plug is right here. And with that cable tracker, I actually put a nail into the female, and I followed it all the way around to where that stuff goes. And I got some duct tape over there. The signal kind of faded out when I went over that way, so I thought, well, I might be getting into cutting and splicing wires and checking all that stuff. That's like a living nightmare, and I'm not really interested in doing that, but if I have to, I have to, right? So, didn't end up finding any of that. And we said, okay, well, you know what? We got this little fuse box over here. And so we get inside this little nifty fuse box, and I just start poking around on these relays, right? And this relay is cool to the touch, and this relay is cool to the touch, and this relay is warm. And this one's cool. And I come back over here, and our son John is over messing around over that way, and he's moving wires and trying to figure something out, right? I think you just spotted it right there. Look at that. You see how that is not plugged in? That goes to our fan, right? So as I'm over here and I'm messing around with this thing, I felt it click. It it was warm and then it popped, right? And so I got out this nifty laser infrared thermometer, and this relay was actually running about 10 degrees hotter or more than the other relays right next to it. And so we went, okay, and John had kind of, as he was working around over that way carefully, not to get into the fan came on, and when it did, the temperature on this relay rose. And you're going, well, what the hell would that have to do with the ignition system? Well, if you pull this relay, then the truck dies, okay? So this is your ignition relay. So if you pull that out, truck is dead. Put it back in, you can restart, right? Now, if we don't have the fan plugged in, we're running at a normal operating temperature on this relay, okay? You plug it in, it'll raise by like 10 degrees when that fan kicks on. So I went, you know what, I'm going to do a test. We are going to unplug that stupid thing, and I'm going to run all over the countryside, and I'm going to see if I can kill this truck. I'm just going to see if it'll fail like it's failed everywhere else, and you know what, it didn't. And that gauge on the dash is back down into our normal range on the temperature rather than running high, and in fact it pretty much is giving me the same kind of information that the auxiliary one is. So I would say, you know, and I wasn't having any problem with having it die and having to do rolling starts or any of that. So if you're looking for a problem where your freaking car or truck is dying for no apparent reason, check that electric fan. And let me just say, this should have told, and there's a couple things that probably should have flagged this. I know that fan's been a little noisy, but what, you know, after a truck or a car warms up, what's the first thing that's going to come on? Probably that doggone fan, right? When you reach operating temperature and what have you, if it's coming up to say 210, roughly is about where mine kicks on, you know, that fan is suspect. And if you're having trouble, unplug the damn thing and see what it does. And you may just find that it's your fan, because I will tell you, I'm going to replace this fan. This truck is now within an operating range, did not die. Not at all. It didn't stumble, didn't do any of the hesitation. The gauge is back in a normal range. So check that stupid fan. Another thing I would note on this OHC engine, a lot of people had talked about a crank sensor problem, and I do have a clutch. I have looked all over from one side to the other for a crank sensor on this truck, and not even Dodge has one. Dodge doesn't even show a diagram of having one. And the OHV engine, not the OHC, but the OHV engine has the exhaust on the driver's side, whereas the OHC has it on the passenger side. So where they're showing in the book that there should be a crank sensor that everybody is showing me, that's for the OHV engine, not the OHC. And nobody's been able to tell me yet where a crank sensor is on this. I did follow the signal back toward the sensor on the tail of the transmission. It seems like an odd place for it. Maybe that's where it is, but if so, Dodge didn't even have it listed. So, anyway, have a good day. Take care. Bye.